All right. Hi, everyone. I am John
I'm Joni.
for the Human Potential. Today's topic, what I want to talk to you about, is following your intuition and learning how to follow your intuition and why it's important to learn how to follow your intuition. And it's sort of that gut feeling, right? That instinct. So, you were a dancer, right?
Right.
Okay. So, how important is it, or when you dance, and let's say you practice a routine, right? Or everybody practices a routine.
Right.
You do it to the point to where you don't have to think about it.
Right.
Is that the reason for the practice?
Yes, absolutely.
So, what happens if you're on stage and you're performing and you're thinking?
Well, you don't want to think, you definitely want to feel. Because it's not a good performance if you're just thinking about what the next step is that I need to do. So you just kind of let it flow and feel it, and you enjoy it much more. The audience enjoys the emotion that's connected to it.
So, there's no flow if you're thinking.
No, none at all.
Now, can you notice somebody who's thinking a routine as opposed to performing the routine?
Oh, absolutely.
It comes across as choppy?
Yes, and that's the same for any performance art. You've seen singers who sing a song, they're just singing the words without the feeling behind it. It's definitely not as enjoyable, that you don't see the artistic value in that.
You see it in a pitcher in baseball. You can see when they start pressing, if they start thinking about where to put the ball instead of just throwing the ball.
Yeah,
And they're aiming as opposed to just throwing.
right.
And then they're all over the place,
Right, instead of just letting it fly and be.
letting it fly.
Yeah.
Golfers, I'm a golfer. I can tell you that sometimes you overthink a shot, overthink a putt, overthink a chip instead of just getting up there. Sometimes I call golf, or I call myself, just be like John Daly. Don't think about it. Just go up and hit it. And usually works out better than me overthinking the shot.
Right. The mental aspect is huge, really.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
learning to go with the flow and allowing your intuition to sort of guide you.
Right.
So, like I have always said, so in life, and here's the truth, that you're born into perfection. You're already perfect. There's nothing that's going to stop that. The only thing that's going to interfere with that is our own thoughts and our own judgments on ourselves, right? But in truth, your life is really already lined up for you. Like, you can think of your life as just a linear line, and then we make choices along those that kind of take us off that path. And then what happens is our guides, our higher self, uses spirit guides, angels, whatever, to get us back on track, right?
Back
They
to the
try to,
line.
whatever the case may be. A good example is like, where am I going? And you're driving your vehicle and the car in front of you has its right turn signal on and you turn left. Well, maybe that was a sign to turn right. So they were sort of guiding you, but because we didn't follow or know how to follow our intuition, we missed that sign. Or we didn't see that sign, right? So, and that's, so like when you're on stage and you're just performing, you're just letting go. You just feel the fluidity of the performance.
Right.
As opposed to the choppiness of the thinkiness, right? And so now the question lies in, so then how do you follow your intuition? Or how do you even know what intuition is, right? And so that takes practice. Actually, it takes practice. Because there's a trust issue, right?
Yes.
When you're on stage, you have to trust you've done all you can at this point. Now it's go time.
Right.
Time to perform. The show starts at 8, you're going on.
Right.
You can't be thinking about,
No.
you have to trust that your work has
Prepared you.
well enough,
Yes.
right? And that's some of the great performers, great athletes. That's what they always talk about. It's, practice. We're talking about practice, right?
Right.
But it's that practice that gets you to the perfected form,
Right.
right? And sometimes it's not what you would call perfect, but it's exactly what needed to be,
Yes.
right?
Right.
And so the more you listen to the intuition, the more you gain trust. So like, I'm sure your first performance wasn't as good as your last performance, right? Because there may have been a little doubt, and the more you do it, the more you learn to trust. All right, I'm good at this. I
Right.
trust my skills.
Right. Right.
I trust my I trust that I prepared well enough, right? You've done. I mean, look at jobs. How many jobs have you had? And you're like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get this. And then like 3 weeks later, you're like bored because you've got it pat. You're down pat. So,
Right.
and what is that basically? That's just trust. Because you've done it so many times, now you trust your skill set in the position that you're doing.
Right.
It's the same thing with intuition. The more you learn to follow it, the more you trust it. And the more you trust it, the easier life becomes because you're in flow with self. That's another thing we're going to talk to you about, flowing in flow with self. How's an easy way to get into flow? And that is basically balancing the chakras. And we basically have a tool or a practice, an exercise that can help balance those chakras and then maybe help align you to be in flow with self.
Okay. That I was just going to ask, how do you know if it's your intuition that's telling you to do something?
Right. So the more you do it, the more you learn to trust it. It's usually that first thought, quite honestly. And so when you do, like, if you look at any psychic medium, remote viewer, and let's take remote viewing, look at some YouTube videos at remote viewers. There was a good, I got to pull up this interview with this remote viewer and this one interviewee, and he was teaching him remote viewing. And he was said, okay, I'm going to give you a target, and I'm going to have you describe a picture that I'm going to show you 10 or 15 minutes later. So I want you to describe that picture. That's your target. So what do you feel? And the person's like, So what am I looking at? An area? No, you've already lost it, failed it, because you're thinking. And so the guy says, no, I don't want you to think. I want you to just, what's your first impression that pops into your head? So what, and write it down. Oh, okay. Because it's our instinct to try to control everything, right?
Right, especially for a more analytical type person. You're always in your head, in your brain.
Right.
So you got to try to let that go.
Right.
And that's the hard part.
Well,
that was hard for me. It's very hard for me because I tend to be that way.
Right. Analytical and controlling.
Right.
You want to control the situation, and sometimes you need to let go of the situation. Yes. Because a great example of letting go and allowing, and I'll let you know that sometimes you're not in control, is your first husband passed away suddenly.
Yes.
Right? Boom. And you were like, uh-oh. And that shows you that life can throw curveballs like that.
Instantly.
And if that doesn't say you don't mourn the loss, that doesn't say you don't feel the loss, but when you're more in touch with that intuition, those events that come into your life are easier to handle because you realize you're looking at it from a different perspective, and you feel the reason or why these things occur, and you can flow through them. You may not always know the reason or the why at the moment, but you go, okay, I've been here before, maybe not this exact situation, but I've been in a difficult situation and I've moved through it and got past it. So this must happen for some reason. What that reason is, I don't know now. That doesn't mean you don't mourn. That doesn't mean you don't have loss, whether it be a job, a person, a friendship, whatever the case may be. You do, but you go, I've been here before.
Right.
Yes. you go, okay, I don't know the reason right now, but there must be one. And that allows you to ease into that situation a little more fluidity, if that's the correct word, Mm-hmm. So as a psychic, as a medium, as an intuitive, that's what I try to do. I get out of the way, and I allow the information to flow, and try not to think about it. Just let it happen, right? So, and it's just, okay, so it's like, like the first thing that pops in. So if I'm going to read her, let's say the first thing that pops into my head. So like, okay, the first thing that pops in my head is a tree. So I see a tree, and then I was thinking growth. No, it's growth. More like roots. I'm trying to find roots because I feel like I feel like I'm kind of scattered sometimes. I don't really know what I feel like I'm doing here, and so I feel I'm looking to put roots down somewhere. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I just feel lost sometimes. I feel kind of like, um, yeah, it just feels scattered. So when I tap into you, that's what I'm feeling.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like, because my original thought was when I saw the tree, like, okay, it's growth. But no, they went, no. They went to the roots. And so then the roots, I go, huh, interesting roots. And then it showed me like I feel scattered. I feel like I'm not rooted. Like I need to ground myself. I need to get rooted. Like I just feel like I'm kind of lost here and I'm looking for roots and to kind of put because I don't know really where life's going sometimes.
Right. That is very true. I can validate it. That's how I feel.
So then
Many days.
Many days. So the roots come in the knowing that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And when you look at that and you go, okay, so I've been here before and it's worked out. So I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I don't know really the reason why I'm here. So you don't always have to know the why.
Right.
But okay, so so what they're telling me is that um, uh, it's yeah. Yeah, I know exactly. So it's like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I may not know why I'm here, but I know I've been here before and it's going to work out. So if you go to that area, this turmoil that you're feeling will be easier and
Right.
sleep will be more restful.
Thank you. That's good.
Sleep becomes unrestful because the mind's racing at night, even on the subconscious level.
Mm-hmm.
So what they're telling me they're trying to do is, now if you feel yourself being awakened in the middle of the night, a lot of times that's because they're working with your psyche. They're playing with your emotional state, your emotional self,
Mm-hmm.
to bring ease into your life. And so they're trying to relax you at night. And so, yeah, I wouldn't worry a lot about sleep, honestly, because it's really not about sleep. It's more about rest. And so what they're taking your emotional body, your emotional state, and they're pulling you away, and they are giving you emotional rest at night. They're easing your thoughts is what they're trying to do. So like if you wake up in the middle of the night or whatever and you think it's like having to take the dogs out, a lot of times it's not really taking the dogs out. It's the dogs working with your higher self or your spirit guides. Because your higher self, as you know, you don't really work with your higher self. It's too much energy. They use go-betweens, and those go-betweens is what helps you deal with the powerful energy better. And so if any of you ever had that feeling like, okay, I'm working with my higher self, indirectly you are. They're usually working with guides and angels because I mean, to be your higher self is like sort of the God self, and that is like wow, it's a
Funny
lot
you
to
should
absorb.
say that because before I go to sleep at night, a lot of nights I'll ask my higher self, show me what I need to know, something like that. Like I'll ask us in a question form, I'll say, show me what direction my life needs to take. I need you to help me understand what I'm supposed to be doing, or something like that. And I ask the higher self before I go to sleep. So now you just explain that to me.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
No, I do that all the time.
So that's quite fascinating. So see, that's sort of how it works, right? You just kind of have to let your instincts and your intuition just sort of take over and trust it and follow it. And it's the same thing with like the remote viewing. It's what's the first thing that pops into your head? Just write it down. You're trying to be right or wrong. It's not right or wrong. It just is. So it's like, okay, or right or incorrect, I should say. I don't like the word wrong. Right or incorrect. But so that doesn't, it just is. So when you, remote viewing is a good tool because it allows you practice your intuition. So have somebody pick a target and you describe the target. And the more you do it, the better you get. And it's the same thing with intuition, the same thing with living your life. So that's, quite fascinating. I'm interesting, right?
Yes, yes.
So the more you do it, the more you're going to have trust, and the more you're going to be able to allow the intuition to guide you in your everyday life and allow it to take forth. So hope that helps, guys. You have any questions?
No, you answered them. Thank you.
Fascinating, right?
Yeah, very.
And that's sort of what I do with readings. Well, I should say what we do with readings. I allow the guides to sort of help process these, and that's what they say. So anyways, guys, hey, appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. Remember, always love yourself for who you are. You are great and perfect being. Thank you for listening.